And senior Biden official Jake Sullivan has been meeting Prime Minister Netanyahu here in Israel today. The US National Security Advisor came to Israel from Saudi Arabia, where, according to the kingdom, he held talks with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on a wide-ranging security agreement between the two countries. Reminder, I'm joined in the studio by Mandel, founder and director of the Middle East Political Information Network, and over in Bahrain, Abdallah Al-Junaid is a columnist and geopolitical analyst. Thank you both for staying with us. So, Eric, Jake Sullivan is here. Joe Biden has actually just said, addressing college graduates in the US, that he is working to make sure we get to that two-state solution. Big disconnect between Biden and Netanyahu at the moment. Is this the Biden administration's last chance to stop the IDF from going into Rafah?
Well, first of all, how do we define two states? How do you, it's not just, I think the Israeli people, and I've spent a lot of time, are not wanting to reward at this point of time the Palestinians with a path for two states or to Palestinian independence. So I think they're kind of ignoring really the Israeli public from really most of the left through the center and right. This is not the time, because it's seen as a reward for what Hamas has done. The administration keeps bringing up these two states. Two states means different things for different people. To the Arab world, it means 1967 lines, which is armistice lines of 49 or the Green Line. Those are indefensible lines, and according to UN Security Council Resolution 242, Israel was never supposed to withdraw to indefensible lines from territories, not the territories total. And I don't think any Israeli prime minister is going to agree to that, whether it was Yair Lapid or Benny Gantz. So Bibi maybe says the right message, but he's the wrong messenger. Jake Sullivan, who basically works to the pleasure of what President Biden wants, would like Israel to stop in Rafah. And they keep saying that what Israel's doing is limited. It is not full-scale war. But the message was really ill-timed. And it should have, if they want to do it, it should have been quiet to say, Israel, we are not going to provide you with offensive weapons against a terrorist entity, especially knowing that terrorist entity, Hamas, is supplied through the Philadelphia corridor. And that the question really is, should Israel have started there, which is for a whole other discussion. But Israel cannot, from my point of view, consider themselves victorious to whatever extent we talk about that, but with leaving Rafah intact. But I tell you, one thing Netanyahu's not done and what Biden's not done, and Sullivan, all of them, they really have not managed the expectations of their people and their world, because you are dealing with an entity that has been built up over 17 years with over 300 miles of tunnels, most of which have not been destroyed, and even in the center and north, plenty of terrorists are still present.
All right, and Abdallah, Jake Sullivan, of course, came here directly from Saudi Arabia. The Israelis don't want to have a conversation about the two-state solution, but the Saudis very much want them to have that conversation, don't they?
No, totally. We have two tracks. Track one is what the Saudis are talking about with the Saudi directly, which is the security pact. In terms of the current conflict, we hope that cessation of hostility established as soon as possible to save lives. Three, the peaceful track between Israelis and Palestinians have already been marked, and we hope that both parties very soon, hopefully, would meet and agree on a track. If it's going to be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what we want is a total commitment from both parties. And I'll add one thing: at the present time, what we want, and I disagree with Eric, because also I speak to Israelis, and they are committed to a solution that serves and secures the aspiration of both people, the Israelis and the Palestinians. So what we need to do is, it's not a matter of rewarding Hamas or rewarding anybody. This conflict started by Hamas, and Hamas doesn't represent the broader, Palestinian will or opinion from and what need to be done. So we need to take a step back and evaluate the situation very carefully.
Eric, do you want to answer?
Yeah, unfortunately, the polls of Palestinians, both of Gaza and of the West Bank, overwhelmingly have supported October 7th to this day. I wish it was different. Yes, most Israelis want to have peace, but your options are Hamas. That's not a good option. And the other choice is the Palestinian Authority, which is hated by its people for its corruption, and they would not be able to effectively control Gaza. So you're really in a very difficult bind over there.
But is it time for Prime Minister Netanyahu to talk about what he does want in Gaza the day after?
The answer is yes. And I think it's not just the Americans. Look what happened with your defense minister, and Benny Gantz have spoken, giving deadlines that they would, one of them, Benny has given deadline that he would leave. I think you need to talk about it, but you need to be honest, and it goes back to what I was saying before, that there's going to be an insurgency that's going to come up from here. Who's going to do the civilian control? Israel's going to need for a long time to be able to go into Gaza to deal with the mortars that are going to come out and hit the envelope communities, similar to what goes on in Judea and Samaria. Somebody needs to sort of talk the truth and not just kick this down the road. And the Americans are not incorrect. My country is not incorrect in saying we need to have some kind of plan of what you want. Is it a military occupation? Is it a total withdrawal?
Which the defense minister says
no way.
No way.
And he's absolutely right, because that means Israel's in charge of the sewers and electricity and those things. And the Palestinian people do not like the Israelis coming in to do that. That would be a disaster.
Abdallah, I just want to ask you, because of course your country just hosted the Arab League summit, and we know about all of the public statements, but I'm wondering if you can give me a glimpse into what was said behind the scenes about what happens if Israel fails to defeat Hamas.
Let me just recap and comment on what Eric have said. To start with, what our friends in the United States need to address as well. It's not just Israel failure that led to what took place in 7th of October, but also making Netanyahu accountable for facilitating the finances and also the degradation of the PA. Both of those, Netanyahu is partially responsible, and he should be made accounted for by the Israelis before anybody else. What the summit in Bahrain reached is one thing. Definitely Israel need to listen fast. We are your neighbors, and day after, the most important thing that we need to find the grounds to support what we have signed in 2020 and develop something totally different to the realities before that. But continuing this war, it's not helping at all.
Okay, Abdallah, thank you very much. Abdallah Al-Junaid there in Bahrain.